It's getting hot again. What's up, everybody? Can yo hear me? Let me see. We are back to unpleasantly hot temperatures here. Not quite as bad as it was. It's about 96. It's peaking. The daily temperature in my... No, not 96, 92 Fahrenheit. Oh, it feels hotter than that in here. You don't have to donate, but you do have to be well, you should be a subscriber to the stream to submit a game. We've got so far 5 games. Asterbate, Mr. Slow with a submission of Zhukov Itski against Geller. Arsenal Fan makes 3. Mule Skinner is 4. Sun Prism is 5. And I'm surprised we don't have more, and we'll probably get more. No. So I do ask that people who submit games have to be subscribers to the stream. And you can get a subscription various ways. You can pay for it. You can murder or kidnap someone, take over their account and buy yourself a subscription. No, that's not an option. You can intimidate people into giving you a gift sub. That's also not recommended. You could just get lucky and get a gift sub. Alright, so it's we're up to 90207. 90210. 90207 for the donation bar for August. I am going to Romania to play in a tournament in August. And I'm registered for that. So what are we going to start with? Asterbate versus Numloto. Asterbate Numloto. Hopefully I'm not losing my voice. I told Asterbate I was a little bit concerned. I have one of my children's has strep throat. And I've been trying to stay away from her, but it's a very contagious disease. And I'm hoping that we don't get that. But can't control it. Alright. My voice is acting a little weird, but I think we'll make it through the stream. The question is, am I really getting sick, or is it something else, like allergies? So what's up? Did you get my submission on Tuesday for myself and Cheesy Noob? I just said... What do you mean, yourself and Cheesy Noob? I got your submission. You submitted a game for Cheesy Noob? Oh. Well, where did you send it? Me, myself, and Cheesy Noob. I don't know, this is getting a little weird with this allergies / strep throat thing. Mr. Wow! Oh my god, I'm not sick anymore. Mr. Slow Down has tip 4793. Wow. The big one. Taking's up to 950. That's a big one. That's a big one. Hype Train. Hug 2712 is followed, by the way. That was 2 days ago, sorry. Mr. Slow Down with 4793. Cheesy Noob had a submission as well, but you sent it to me on lichess? Mr. Slow, thank you. Mr. Slow's submission is the Geller game. Right. Compose message. Oh my god. Well, you got You got a new game? What happened to your old game? Was that the wrong game? Hi, Bill. Cheesy noob. Alright, let's see if this works. Copy. Add a new chapter. Paste. Let's see if this works. Alright. That's cheese. I think it's allergies, man. Cheeseburger has to be white. And Arsenal fan. Thank you, Mr. Slow, with a massive donation, bringing us up to an even $9.50. Sun Prism we got today. Now I got to go back to Arsenal fan again and search for you again. No, there you are. So this is a different game? Oh no. Live chess. What? Will all that shit go in the... go in the study if I is that gonna fit? Is that gonna like cause a chaos? It worked. So you've got 2 games now. What about Strongest Avenger? We're gonna cancel that one. All right. So you analyzed how the other game. We'll ditch the other game. I'm done. Sorry, I want to delete that. Why is this woman's name familiar to me? It's sort of unclear. Alright. Her name seems kind of familiar. But I'm not sure if there's any reason for that. Alright, we're gonna hope this is allergies. I don't want to get strep throat and be sick for a week. Let's warm up with Astrobate. There's a lot of allergies. It's probably just that. Knight f3 from Astrobate. This is against Umlaut. So knight f3, knight f6, c4. Welcome everybody. Thanks, Mr. Slow. Mr. Slow's up next with the Geller game. But we like to warm up with an easy one. I usually go a little deeper into the famous Grandmaster games like the Geller game submitted by Mr. Slow than I do just an average game. Plus, it helps that Mr. Slow makes a massive donation to the stream. Makes me more encouraged to go into depth. Plus, it's a great game. All right. Anyway, Astrobate, we're warming up. So it's knight f3, knight f6, c4. This has been a new thing for Astrobate. What's up, Sun Prism? So I wanted to congratulate Astrobate. I saw some of his games this week, and I joked about this recently, but after teaching him for a long time, I had the feeling he's still evolving. But you know how he had a lot of bad habits and was self-taught, and slowly I think he's learning from my perspective, and his game is kind of morphing a bit. So he's new to this, he's new to playing the Reti or the English, by the way. But Black's move is okay, not great though. By playing d5 before you put your knight on c3, it's a bad Grunfeld or bad Neo-Grunfeld. So it's basically Black's playing the Marshall defense. Maybe it's not like he's a pawn down, but Black loses control of the center. You can do this if I play c4, knight f6, knight c3, d5. Or you can do this if I play knight f3, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5. But what you can't do is play d5 here, because there's no knight to exchange. When I take and Black takes, if Black takes with a knight, White now has a very strong choice between d4 and e4 with advantage in both cases. Probably even h3 leaves white with an advantage, but I have the feeling that h3 isn't so good. It's a little too slow. Like c5. So we really need to play e4 or d4. And Asterbate goes with the e4. d4 is extremely strong. It transposes directly to the Marshall defense. By the way, I also say that like black can play queen takes d5. I've had a lot of people play like this. It's clearly not a solution. White plays what? I need my glasses. Hold on. I guess you could argue that at least knight f6 comes with tempo if e4. Alright. Anyways, knight takes e4. I personally, I usually play d4. Is there any drawback to e4? Well, there might be. What about e4 knight f6? I think that's the question. Notice the score for black is better after knight f6 than knight b6. Statistically irrelevant, but I think it may not actually be irrelevant. After knight f6, yeah, you're attacking this pawn. Problem is, you can't take it. But if I play d4, then you can take it. So my personal preference here would be, as I said before, to play d4. But let's see. After e4, if knight b6, you have a very good position. Now, even here, I think that black probably can try, like, bishop g4. So I'm going to say that I like d4 better. Alright, e4, black played knight b6. So the question is, what do you do after knight f6? If you want to play e5, you can play e5, and it's like a Queen's Gambit accepted. After e5, knight d5, d4, this position exists in the Queen's Gambit accepted, except black has a pawn on c4. So it's better to have a pawn on c4, I guess. It limits white's options. White pretty much has to take on c4. Famous last words. Still, it's very good for white. The more flexible option you can see here is knight c3. What I'm wondering is, does black have some kind of trick like knight e5, like e5 here? Could black play e5? Now c5 clearly is a move. Could black play e5? What would I get for that pawn? Do I have knight e5, knight e4? Like one of those Petrov tricks? So I'm wondering about this. I bet this isn't so hot for black. If I take it, then queen d4. Oh, this doesn't work at all. Yeah, we have queen a4 check. That's game over. Queen a4 check is game over. So e5, there's really no good answer to this move. So e5 isn't playable. Black has to try c5, maybe e6, and then transpose my game with Mihawk after d4, c5. Isn't this the game? It's not. Why is it not right? I don't understand. It's very similar to the game I had. I would think it would like transpose. Check. No games with check. I guess my knight was on b6 in said game. Anyway, your opponent played knight b6. Okay. Now, what we don't want to have is a backward pawn, right? If black had one more move, either, c5 or e5, black would have a good position. 20 out of 22 masters say that d4 is the best move for white here. But don't believe everything you read. Is there any other reasonable move, though? I mean, knight c3 is clearly okay. Yurovsky played this. d4 versus knight c3. d4 occupies the central square, preventing and discouraging c5 and e5. Black should go with bishop g4. It's like a neo Grunfeld, basically a kind of bad Grunfeld for black. So Asterbate does d4. Black plays bishop g4. Here's the position now. The best move for white here. I've been trying to talk about. Somebody said b3, killing knight. Oh, you got me. Killed it. Well, killing it, it still has like d7 available. I mean, it's rocking, man. I think it's already dead. Like, Arsenal is literally beating on a dead horse. Alright, bad pawns aside. No need to kill a knight on b6, man. It's already dead. Like, you might want to play a4, a5. That sometimes can... Grishuk did to me. No need to beat on a dead horse. Now, our question is... Should I play bishop e3? Reinforcing central pawn? Or the quiet bishop e2? I think they're both good. But I don't know. I somehow feel like bishop e3 is better. Wow, someone actually played e5 here, like it's a Chigorin. I do not really trust black's position. But that makes some sense, because now pawn takes pawn, black has compensation. So the advantage of the Asterbate move is that it makes it harder for black to play e5. It makes sense. The dude... No, you didn't do bishop e2. Okay. So I think bishop e2 is probably best. Computer agrees. But it thinks that white is better in all cases anyway. Asterbate, you made a bad move here, dude. I normally play this. Yes, this is possible, and now you should probably push anyway. So Stochek has a game here. Yuri Stochek, c6. White is slightly better after knight c3. It's kind of a cross between the Chigorin and the knight f6 Scandinavian. Both moves are good. I guess this is simpler. I mean, wow, you could still do e5. Well, though in this case, the difference would be pawn takes, queen takes, and you could take with the bishop, which is probably slightly better for white, rather than losing your right to castle. But apparently knight takes is better. And if bishop takes e2, oh no. I didn't think of this. Guys, you have to play king takes e2. It's just a central pawn, no big deal. So interesting stuff I've never analyzed before, really, in depth. Alright, so Asterbate, d5 is a clear mistake. Now black can hit that pawn. You're going to have a hard time maintaining it. So maybe instead of c6, black should play e6. Because e6 allows you to develop, allows him to develop with bishop e4 check. You know, e5 is a lot like, it's like Chigorin Arsenal, but, you know, the nice thing about e6 is that it also, in addition to developing, allows you to pressure the d5 pawn. I hope I'm not getting sick. Yeah, he played e5 in fact, but I kind of like this better. Now, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of ways for white to continue here with some advantage. What do we do after e6? What I'm worried about here is that we end up with an isolated pawn. That's a little bit of a liability. Say knight c3, takes, bishop b4. How do we keep our pawn protected on d5? We probably have bishop e5 check, and then I guess c6. It appears to me that like black is equalized here, but maybe not. Let's check. Yeah. Asterbate played d5 too early. Is e6 the best move? It is. So that's really important. It looks like e6 is the only move that almost practically equalizes, because this is essentially a dual purpose move. He puts pressure on the center, the overextended pawn at d5, and develops quickly at the same time. e5 develops, but it doesn't put any pressure on white's strong pawn on d5. It's still a good move, but at the end of the day, this, stays on the board effectively. Now, I'm going to go wait for a second, sneeze, and then I'm coming back. Alright, so after this, Asterbate played a horrifying move now. Horrifying. What's the worst move we play? Knight takes pawn. This is really bad, bro. It's your good bishop. Your pawns are on light squares. At the minimum, black has bishop e7 with a solid game. But he also has bishop takes f3. He also has queen takes g5. So how many good moves does black have in this position? Yeah, bishop takes f3 is... Well, there's sometimes there's those positions where you can go like queen d2. But that doesn't work when black can play f6 and win a piece, like here. There are the odd examples where that happens, Black has to move the queen and I can get my piece back or whatever. Here, that doesn't work. So Asterbate just really messed up. Yeah, bishop takes f3 appears. Well, let's see. Bishop takes f3, bishop takes d8, bishop takes d1, bishop takes c7, and we're down a piece. That's not good. Yeah. Unfortunately. Queen takes g5 just trades pieces. Although that's also not bad for black. So Asterbate lost his shit here. Very unprincipled move. He should know from playing the black side check Benoni. You need to play knight c3, develop, control, protect. Where's Mr. Coffee? DCP. Video blurred. Why it does that, I do not know. Weird. Develop, control, protect, Asterbate. Queen's bishop is typically the last minor piece enters the game. He thinks I'm a background element. I'm not? Alright. Bishop g5. And then black plays the worst possible response. f6. Now, Asterbate, why not put the bishop on the best square? You take that away from him, that bishop c5. This is the square, where the bishop would belong anyway. You would transpose to Stochek Klabis 2022. But he goes back to d2. Okay, it's not so bad. He was worried about the check. The Stochek. So black goes to c5. Check. Again, the Stochek. d2's not bad. I would prefer e3. This also interferes with our protection of the d5 pawn, ultimately. Check, knight 8, d7. Yes, he can also play c6. But black's structure might have to be sacrificed in that case. So, black plays knight d7. This has its advantages, but the downside for black is that the pawn on d5 remains a big player. Yeah, no, Asterbate's making a mistake probably with bishop e5 check. Yeah, absolutely bishop e2 is good. That's an exchange that you want to promote. And like you said, I think we're actually threatening knight takes e5. So if black were to play a random move, for example, knight a5, let's say, knight takes e5, bishop takes e2, queen e2, pawn takes e5, check. We're almost threatening this. Yeah, we probably don't get enough for it. But we have strong moves like knight h4 is a very strong positional move, just eyeing the f5 outpost. This is a favorable exchange when black has weaknesses on the light squares, of course. Yeah. No, bishop e2 is strong. Yeah, this is major capitulation now. Black really should try to keep that light square bishop and allow, if you play g4, okay. But I think you should go back to f7 and then deal with this with some sort of g6 and try to keep you out of the f5 square if it's possible to defend. Black will try it. I don't love black's position, but white's is a little bit weird too. But after h3, bishop takes f3, I think that now we can say that white is clearly better. Because where did my light squares go? Anyway, he's not dead yet. Castles, knight c3, and then a somewhat questionable move for black here, a6. Where do we go? Probably d3, bishop d3, and now black played c6. But ultimately now black went to a lot of trouble and played c6. Now his structure gets busted anyway. So the simplest thing to do for white here is just take and enjoy your favorable structure. True, black has control of d4, but obviously white is better. After c6, Asterbate doesn't want to play. Homie, don't play like that. So we're expecting takes. Asterbate says no. I see the potential here. I'm going to let you take on d5. There's some risk involved. Queen g4. Takes? No. Queen e8. Okay, this looks like a sensible move for black. So what about pawn takes pawn, though? Why, is he afraid of this? Is black afraid of this? f5, because the bishop takes f5. Black really needs like one extra move here. i.e. king h8. If black had one extra move, king h8, f5, bishop takes f5, well, even that probably wouldn't work. He's got serious problems on the light squares. How do you deal with this? Yeah, true. Black probably can't. There is another option. I'm surprised Arsenal hasn't suggested it. Wasn't the idea first queen e6, then take back on ed? Maybe. I don't think he had an idea necessarily. Asturbate's main idea is like bishop h6, but he also saw this. I was also thinking about, there's an interesting shot here, f5. This is going to be very sharp, but I think that black needs to give this a serious consideration. Because after takes, we have pawn takes. Actually, even knight f6 might be. Even knight f6 might be a move for black. Because you, like, only have h4. Laterally, there's no squares available. Ooh, f5 is pretty nasty, actually. You're going to have to be careful after that. I like f5. Wow, he's better after f5. That's a dynamic move that's not easy to find. It's counterintuitive. You know, it looks like white owns f5. You can't play it. But the center's more important. So Asturbates would have been burned there. Queen e8, castles here. I mean, all endgames are favorable for white now with the two bishops. Check. He does what Mr. Slow said. And now Asturbates lost his mind completely. You got no attack here, Charles. But neither does black. So you should take this pawn on c6. Black will probably play rook e8. And then you can choose between your options here. But I think that trading queens would be really good for white. Maybe queen g4 back. Black will have to recapture. All endgames. Now this a6 is just falling now. So Asturbates, this wasn't your best game. Queen g6, queen e6 check, king h8, and now what? Excuse me? h4. That's some kind of sophisticated trick. That's to give him, oh my god, that's to give him queen h3. Wow. Now black, yeah. You could take on d5 though. This is kind of cool. If rook a e8, queen h3, and you're hammering that h pawn down. Not a bad idea. Some kind of wonderful. Yeah, h4 is wild. It looks absolutely stupid at first, but then you realize the point is to draw back to h3. So black should hit the queen, it drops back there. What about takes? Takes is probably better. I mean, this is nice. So we have to take back with a knight. And then if he trades, we have to take one of the knights, but I don't know which one. What's up, Butterfly Hunter? You should hunt pythons. I heard it makes more money. There was some TV news report about a python hunter in Florida yesterday. Man, I love this game though. h4, just because I can. I'm gonna play queen g3. Some woman she's caught like 500 pythons, like Burmese pythons, like the big ones. I guess in the Everglades. I don't know. they must be like rampantly all over the place. What do they get, like, imported? Queen G3. This doesn't even do anything. I mean, I guess it attacks the pawn on H4. So this was not really a good game. Very strange move by Asprey now. Bishop E3. Takes. Check. He drops a piece. And now it goes. Oh no, we're down a piece. We're down a piece, and black has... This was not a good game. Not a good game, man. He dropped his queen. So this game was submitted because of some kind of beautiful checkmate. Knight D6, D4, Knight F7, and we get smothered mate. It's all about the smothered mate. It wasn't a good game. It's all about the happy finish. It's just a flesh wound. No, Astrobate, I think you had something going. You know, H4. H4 is a fantastic idea. It's a bit too fancy, but it's still not bad. He should have taken on D5. He plays this really stupid move, Queen G3. And now you just had to bite the bullet and retreat your bishop back to E2, probably. If he takes on H4, you take on C6, takes on C6. You could take that pawn on C6, and it's a game. Alright, that was ugly. He's literally fronting. Alright, we've got a game from Grandmaster Geller. Mule Skinner's Private Study. Sun Prism's Evil Sight game. Cheesy Noob. And then Arsenal versus Alexandra. I feel worse than I look. Mr. Slowdown has tipped $47.93, bringing our August tournament fund up to $950. By the way, the Caixa Open A tournament doesn't have a lot of players left, so I don't know. It's been pretty strong in the past, though. The tournament I'm playing in Romania. It's the 20th to the 30th. No, the 20th to the 29th of August. I'm going to play in Transylvania. With thanks to you guys. Alright, let's do it. For Mr. Slow. For Geller. Guys, hype trains are welcome. If you donate gift subs, people become subscribers, and then they can submit games to the analysis stream. If you're a subscriber, you can submit a game. If not, then not. That's how it is. So this game, I did study this book that Mr. Slow is Geller's famous book, but I don't really remember the games. You know, I don't think I played over every single game in the book. This is a black side of the Spanish. I don't know who Zhukovitsky was. You know, Geller was from Ukraine. Of course, it was then the Soviet Union. I don't remember. Was he from Odessa? Wasn't he from, like, Odessa? No, Astrobate played some good games this week. This wasn't one of his better games, though. Unfortunately, he didn't choose the game based on overall level of play. He chose it on the fancy mate, based on the fancy smothered mate. He's great, but he's choosing the games with his, you know, with his heart, not with his brain. Okay, bishop e5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6. By the way, like last week in the simul, Mr. Slow tricked me by doing some weird move order against me. What did you do? a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7. This is a normal move order. Rook e1, and then, okay, b5, bishop b3, now castles. As we said last week, literally Geller agreed with me that we didn't understand really what's the benefit in playing d6. If you play d6, you kind of give away whether you're playing the marshal or not. If you don't, well, that's less information for the opponent. So now we see it. Wow, this is cool. This is a very early anti-marshal from Zhukovitsky, who I don't know. I don't think he was a GM because I would know. So Zhukovitsky must have been like a strong 1970 Central Chess Club tournament. This was in Moscow. Well, if you're playing Geller, you have to be like at least IM strength. If you're playing Geller in the Central Chess Club in Moscow in 1970, maybe you aren't playing the marshal and you want to face them in a mainline Breyer or whatever. Yeah, that's true. There is a rationalization. Don't like that. H3. So I'm kind of out of my depth here. This was very fashionable recently in the last. Mr. Coffee, what's up? This was fashionable in the last like 20 years, very much so. I remember seeing it years ago, the beginning of the century, the early 2000s. I mean, it's logical, right? And on d6 you can transpose back. But the problem is, black has other moves. Now, if we look at the statistics, there's moves like rook b8, which are kind of neutral. But the move that really stands out is d5. You play the marshal anyway. So what's the point? Is there some kind of thing with like takes in e4 here? That's not a thing, is it? There's this thing in the marshal where they do that, but I guess here this doesn't work. So you play the marshal anyway. Black's score is quite good. 95, 95, rook takes e5. And now one move in particular has the most games, which is knight b6. But unclear. That is the best move according to the engine. I mean, if white doesn't play c3, the marshal isn't as good, because there's not these squishy weaknesses, especially the d3 square is the biggest weak square. Plus h3 is kind of useful for white. So, but this seems to be like not that clear. It's interesting the top games white won. Mugsulu beat Nepomniachtchi. Well, anyway, black doesn't have to do that. I mean, if d5 was especially good, I would think more players would play it. d6 transposes. So, bishop b7 by default, and Geller plays it. Now, if c3, we play like a variant of the marshal with d5. Where the bishop goes to this diagonal instead of staying on the c8 diagonal. I mean, it might go there anyway in the marshal. ed5, knight d5. And, I mean, if white can't take this pawn, then what's the point? That's very nasty. Oh my gosh. My former teammate, Kubachny Laszlo, he had this against Matthias Valls in 1989, getting crushed. Berliner summer, probably 1989. Yeah, that's not good. You don't want to do that. So white doesn't play c3, plays d3. This is better. And that makes sure e4 is protected, so that if you play knight a5, we're going to win the pawn on e5. Some people have even gone as far as to sacrifice that pawn on e5. Wow. That's pretty extreme. So even that is possibly playable. Yesipenko playing that against Eric Hansen. But it is kind of hard to believe. Geller, has the ability to play d5 in one move. If he plays d6, nothing wrong with that, obviously. But the question is, does he have something better? So an interesting choice here by Geller. He doesn't play anything radical, but he also doesn't play the routine move d6. By playing a different move, he keeps the possibility of playing d5 in one move alive. It also prepares rook e8, doesn't it? I mean, this makes sense. You play rook e8, white has like knight g5. That's not really, a forced draw, because this might actually be playable. But just saying, to me the obvious idea is to prepare rook e8 and then go for d5. I see. So the problem is knight c3. Now we get like Nepomniachtchi. Allowing knight c3 with very good control of d5 and no knight a5. So if you play d6, you're threatening knight a5. Now white has to play c3 or a3 or a4, giving the bishop a retreat square. So the problem with Geller's move is this. that is very kind of boring, but also very solid. If you saw in the Nepomniachtchi Magnus match, they had some games that were a little bit like this. Nepomniachtchi seemed to show real favoritism toward this sort of simple knight c3, knight d5 type of approach that offers white like a tiny edge, a very safe position. But Geller's opponent maybe wasn't that familiar with the exact position, plays the kind of routine knight d2, and now we played rook e8. And so now the point is that we can play d5 instead of d6 in one move, possibly. White plays c3, black plays bishop f8, now e5 is protected. So now we have the best of both worlds. Knight f1, and then obviously black can play d5 here. Fabiano, my friend, our friend from the team battles, Vita Levente, beat Fabi back in 2007. That must have been a first Saturday. I went on where I was. I didn't play Fabiano in a GM group, did I? Actually, I did. Oh, maybe I played in that tournament. No, Fabiano, he wasn't that high rated. That's the thing. When I played him, it was like 06. I must have played him in 06. He wasn't 2500. I don't know where I was during this tournament. April 2007. There's no reason I was in the States or something in April 2007. I don't know what I was doing, why I wasn't playing in that tournament. But I did not play with Fabiano in the GM group when he was 2500. Unless the ratings are wrong. But Geller goes knight a5. Interesting. Goes after the bishop. White plays bishop c2 and then d5. So you drive the bishop off the diagonal, but you're also weakening your e5 a little bit. This knight going off to a5 means that this pawn here isn't as well protected. Just enough, right? But there's also the diagonal. Well, what just happened? Major problem, right? For white. He reached 100 puzzle streak and left streaming. Well, he was on streaming a lot during COVID. You know, he likes to play and stuff. He likes to play OTB. I don't know what he's doing. I haven't seen him in a long time. Back in the day, he used to play here sometimes, but when he was younger. He was even living in Budapest for a time, but I think he's back in Hungary, in Romania, Hungary. So anyway, without the e4 pawn, we got a problem there on the diagonal. So white plays this artificial looking move to try to maybe get the bishop back to this diagonal. But I think the most important thing is that e4 is gone. And what does white have in return? What did white get in return for losing their bastion on e4? Nothing, really. But this b4 move might be a mistake as well. This looks more natural to me. Here's a game from 1974. But still, ultimately, it's like, this is a shit show for white, that bishop on the long diagonal. That's a freaking nightmare, man. No good will come of that long diagonal for white, I guarantee you. Very hard to deal with that. Anyway, b4 here, and now a4. White plays this sort of neutral move, and highlights some ideas to maybe artificially isolate the a pawn. It looks slow, and as I often told Acerbate, when you play these type of structures in the Joko, Acerbate used to like to play b4, a4 in the Joko piano. But these pawns here, it's like a... It's very easy for it to become like roadkill, basically. The pawn, this one is backwards. And then the other one, especially the c3 pawn, can be attacked by a knight coming to d5. So, there are potential liabilities. If the queen pulls back, then we go knight d5. You're going to have very serious problems with c3 and potential issues there. Rook a d8. So enjoy your a file, Mr. Zhukov-Itsky. You've got nothing on the a file, and there's no single entry point whatsoever. Can't even like attack b5. Knight g3, which secures e4. That's good. White's fighting for e4. Sorry guys, if anybody's commenting, my scroll is stuck. You don't think he cares about c3? Interesting suggestion. Yeah, c4, but you get the point. You know, I mean, the more pawns you move, the more weaknesses you create. If you play c4, it's hasta la vista. b4, d4. Pawns don't move backwards, so white has to be very careful there. Now black played queen d7, and obviously this is a huge idea. Bishop d2, and then boom. This makes like a very loud sound when it hits the board on d5. Magnus banging the table. Alright. Problem is, how do you get the knight off of... It's like a Sicilian knight on d4. Yes, Arsenal pointed out c4 is possible. But it's not going to be easy to play that without black feasting on the b-pawn. Plus, there's the problem with knight f4. Plus, potentially f5. That's not without risk. So, white now played the beautiful queen b1. He's kind of Potzer style here. But I have to say I didn't expect what would happen next. I don't know, I expected like a slower build-up by black. Here for example, you could try g6. Right? This gradual g6, bishop g7. But what about like this? Say f5, knight c5, bishop c5, bc5. Yeah, this looks a little bit airy. I'm not quite sure what's going on. So black doesn't want to fall in the same trap and make a lot of like pawn weaknesses. I don't know what I would play here. White's not really threatening anything. But on the other hand, I don't know what to do. I mean, you have to consider f5. The huge risk of this diagonal. How about a king move? Like king h8 or something. King h8 looks reasonable. If we need a waiting move, I would vote for king h8. That's definitely a candidate move. Anybody agree with me? Disagree? Alright. So, knight f4 was the move played, which is a crushing threat. You have knight takes g2. You have knight takes d3. You have possible sacrifices on h3. However, the knight isn't well supported, and it can be captured. So there's this. So if knight e5, undermining this guy, we have choices. We can play takes, bishop takes, knight d3, though I don't know what's happening after rook d1. Probably white is busto, lost. That mate on the long diagonal is fatal at the end of the day. Yeah, so bishop takes f4, knight takes d3. No, we got rook takes e8, and then we lose a piece. This doesn't work. Bishop takes f4, probably. Well, black can play a lot of things. I mean, knight f3 check. That drops a piece as well. So knight takes e5, I guess we go. What do? We go here? How are we dealing with this? We're just taking on g2, but what are we doing after this move? Oh, it's queen. What do you think, guys? I'm still confused about this position. I'm a little confused here. Rook takes e8, right. Knight h3, g takes h3, queen takes h3? But where? Immediately? Maybe. The quiet killer? That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good, dude. It's just a quiet killer. Takes, just recapture. So there's mate. Now there's more to it, like knight e4. That won't last. Plus we could even just capture here and take the bishop on d2. So as usual, Arsenal's right. Knight e5 doesn't work because of the simple sacrifice on h3. So white has to take, like on f4 or something. He takes here. This doesn't change anything. And now he plays a different move. He doesn't take here. What's going on there? 99 out of 100 beginners would play bishop takes f4 without losing a moment of sleep. Bishop f4, and then what? This isn't so simple, is it? You know, the danger is that black can have to worry about maybe white playing d4. I guess you need to calculate what? Like Geller to get the point. Well, this is very easy to calculate. Question is, AB, not d4, but bishop takes f4. We don't have any options. I can imagine that black might be better, but it doesn't look obvious. The knight's hanging, okay. So even on the passive like knight f1, just say, is this that bad for white? I'm a little bit concerned that it's not so easy. No, it's like a Philidor, right? Where we had to trade on f5. You get this in, and white's kind of shutting us down a bit. Maybe we have 97. This is very subtle. I want to come back again with another guy here. Still not enough. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the guy should have done this, honestly. Only reason I would be hesitant about knight f4 is that they'll simply capture. So the computer says what? Knight e4. Yeah, I mean, to me it's unbelievable that he didn't play bishop takes f4. When I get a piece on my side of the board like that, in my territory, you know, Roman was like very strong about this. It gets on your side of the board, you get rid of it. Once he sacked the knight on g2 against me in a rapid quad, you know, I'm not letting that happen again. That was my first game against Roman. Allowing knight takes g2. No, obviously there was no bishop on b7, but still. What a coincidence. Bishop takes f4, and white is still alive. But instead, he plays this. Now, that's pretty dangerous. Obviously, knight takes g2 is in the cards now. White, I don't know what he was thinking. This is way too optimistic. So Geller doesn't play knight takes g2. It looks strong. But there may be stronger. So he finds possibly stronger knight takes d4, which white probably overlooked. So what's the point now? CD? If CD... That the capture is still in the position, that knocking that out with the bishop. So if CD, if you try to do something like this, there's always this intermezzo. Probably it's okay for black, but very complicated. Wow. This is insane. So the computer thinks after a very long time, white is slightly better after d4. Wow. I would never be playing d4. I would have chickened out and played bishop takes f4. Definitely. Wow. This took some serious balls by the guy to play d4. That looks insanely dangerous. But Stockfish says it's okay. I would not have gone into this with white. I would have been terrified. So Geller sacks a piece now. The computer says like this is a candidate move. He didn't do this to chicken out and go taco style, right? Chicken tacos. Oh, Christos reigning with a party of 13. Christos. Thanks for the raid. We're in the middle of this game by Efrem Geller from his famous book of collected games. This is Computer Suggestion 96, though. Yeah, I mean, it's really, like, interesting to look at knight takes g2, though. I mean, that looks like it... Thank you for the raid from Pristoso3. I think I'm losing my voice due to some kind of throat infection. I think we'll make it through the stream, but I don't know about tomorrow. We'll see. I just lost my stream. What happened? We're still on. Man, knight takes g2 is very tempting. And it's also very forcing. I could play knight takes e5, but then the knight's protected. I mean, are there any kind of in-between moves like bishop f5? I'm a little bit concerned about this. We could sack our queen. Like knight takes e1, bishop takes d7, knight takes f3 check. That looks scary for white. Yeah, that wins, actually. So bishop f5 doesn't work. You have to take with the king. But apparently it's not enough for black. It looks really scary. But at the end of the day, what's black got? 2 pawns. 2 pawns and some chances. The computer takes all the fun out of chess. You know? Most players would have been afraid that there's something here for black.